Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Otto.
And we're a little late today.
I'm on video.
Yeah, well, you were on video on our live stream for the DNC Fact Check. Yep. Now we have the camera set up for you to go on video in our Denver studio. So welcome, Video Joe, to the podcast. Sorry we're a little late today. We had some stuff we had to work out with the technical aspects of that. We also had to do some background research on today's topic because the consequences of getting this topic wrong are very heavy. So we wanted a little bit extra time to dive into these details to make sure that we're spreading real news and not fake news, because, as I said, the consequences for getting this wrong are significant. So let's everyone hit the share button because we have Video Joe today. Let's hit the share button for Video Joe.
Video Joe. Oh, thanks, man.
So Joe, have you seen the video from Kenosha, Wisconsin yet?
Yeah, I did. I watched it this morning.
Did you see both of them? Because there's one from each side of the car.
No, I didn't. Do you want to show me one of them?
Okay, yeah, we have both of them.
I know I saw one. I saw the one that was on Fox, so I don't know which one that was.
Was that the one that was like looking down through a window from across the street?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the one that most people are seeing. There is another video that I found which is taken from the other vantage point on the other side of the car, and it paints a little bit of a different picture, so we'll play both of them. But anyone who doesn't know, there was rioting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We're not going to call them rioters anymore. We're going to start calling them Biden supporters, because Donald Trump had a rally in Kenosha, Wisconsin last weekend, and apparently last night was the Biden supporters' chance to rally. And as you'll see, they rallied. So we're going to play the video. We're going to go into the past of the alleged victim.
They burned down city blocks. They burned down a car dealership. They basically took people. They just decided, hey, we're going to destroy half of Wisconsin, or half of the city in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Not only that, but there's a video that we're going to show of someone actually approaching a sheriff's vehicle with a rifle and trying to stop the sheriff's vehicle from getting past. We're going to show that. So everyone hit the share button, like the video, and comment, because the media is already trying to make this out to be another one of those terrible cop shootings, which anytime someone loses their life, it's a terrible thing. We always say that. But there are circumstances, as you'll see in the video, that will not justify it, because you never want anyone to die, but will explain the reasoning that cops likely had in deciding to shoot this man, Jacob S. Blake.
And just so everyone's aware, Max and I probably won't agree on all of this, right? So just so you understand, we may not agree. There may be some, just based on my experience and the things that I've gone through in my life, I'm going to tell you that there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to disagree. And you could say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, it has nothing to do with me being conservative. It has to do with just my experiences, having to deal with racism, having to deal with losing my brother, having to deal with lots of other things.
And it's fine disagreeing. I want to paint the picture to, if you end up disagreeing after everything, fine. I want to paint the picture to show what the media isn't showing in this case. And again, anytime that there are people who lose their lives, it's a tragedy, but that doesn't mean that it's justifying them to burn down their city of Kenosha, Wisconsin. So let's go ahead. We're going to play these two clips. The first one is the clip that most of us have seen. If you haven't, this will be the first time you see it, but this is a clip from the driver's side of the vehicle being taken by someone watching from a higher vantage point through a window. Let's go ahead and watch cut one.
Wow.
So that is the clip, and I should have said viewer discretion advised. It's a little bit shielded. You don't actually get to see it by the car door, but obviously viewer discretion advised because we're going to play it again. That's a hard clip to watch. What do you see in that clip, Joe?
I don't see enough to make a decision, but I can tell you right now that I can see why the police officer would be, he's going into his car. I don't know why he didn't comply, right? I don't know why he didn't just stop, just go live to see another day. Everyone is on edge right now. Police officers are on edge. Yeah. People are on edge. Why would you Why would you walk away and not comply with the police? I mean, the police are there to protect the community. They were called there for a domestic dispute. But I don't have enough information. I assume that he was unarmed. I assume that there was no weapon inside the vehicle. These are all things I assume.
Yeah.
But again, I assume that because, frankly, I haven't had the greatest experience with the police officers, and I have police officers that are friends. 100% I back the blue. Just so everyone understands, 100% I back the blue. But I do believe in accountability, and I'm not sure it's a justified shooting. I know you're going to show me some more stuff. You're going to show me a different point of view. So I'm interested, just as everyone else is, just what that point of view is. Nothing, by the way, justifies what they did in their city. Nothing. Nothing you could talk to me about would justify it, right? None.
Yeah, it's important to note that Jacob Blake's mother is calling for people not to burn the city down. So it's important to note that his family members are saying whatever happened there, do not burn down businesses, homes, livelihoods.
Let's hurt our neighbors. Let's go after our neighbors. Yeah, because that's going to make things better. Burning down dealerships and looting people's cars, and they were attacking each other. I saw one video last night where they were literally attacking each other in the streets.
Yeah,
just attacking people, to attack people.
I just put up a poll. Was this a justified police shooting? You don't have to take the poll right now. We're going to show a couple more videos. But I want to get a feel of the viewers, whether they think that this was justified or not. And what I mean is legally justified, not necessarily whether they should have done it or not, and whether the cop had fear.
Yeah. And Sherry just said the cop had no clue if a hand grenade wasn't coming out. You're right. You're right. And to be a police officer today, you don't get paid a lot to do it. Everyone's disrespectful to you. There's no ethical or moral standard that says, hey, listen, I should probably comply with the police. It's, hey, let's fight the police. There's no respect, right? So you're right. They didn't know if there was a hand grenade going out. I don't know how you could say it's not a justified shooting based on that. But I also don't know what he was seeing. I don't know what the police officers were seeing. So maybe the other perspective will give us a little bit more of that.
So someone just commented, too much talk, play the video. We have to explain our take on the video because we aren't the rights. A woman named Gail. It's fine. We don't own the rights to these videos, so we have to talk about them in order for them to fall under fair use, which means we can use someone else's copyrighted material if we're critiquing it, explaining our thoughts on it. So we have to talk about it. Otherwise, it would be copyright infringement. So let's play this clip one more time, and then we'll play the clip from the other vantage point. So let's play cut 1 again.
Wow.
Okay, so now let's play cut 2. This was taken from another person on the other side of the car, and you can see that there's some weird stuff going on. Let's play cut 2.
Get my son! Get my son! Get my son! Get my son! Come here, TJ! TJ! You a bogus bitch! This bitch is bogus! Mom, get back! Mom! 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 You have to get back!
So that was shaky. It's a little hard to see, but what it looks like is that there was some kind of struggle with Jacob Blake on the ground, on the passenger side of the vehicle. We don't know what that was. The police were called to a domestic dispute. He was on the ground. He then gets up, and the officers are following him, telling him to stop walking away, because at the very least they want to detain him to figure out what's going on. At most, they want to arrest him because they've just witnessed a crime. They issued him, allegedly, 7 orders to stop walking away from them. And he walks around to the other side of the car. You then see him reach into the car. which we can't see. This is why, Joe, I think body camera footage should have to come out immediately. Because
Absolutely.
neither of those vantage points show what the officer saw.
And both
If
police
the guy-
officers were wearing a body cam. I heard that one was, but I didn't hear that both of those officers at the door were.
I don't know if both of them were. I think that there was at least one because there's been talk about it. They really should release that because the city burned down overnight. And if it turns out that officers were worried because he was reaching into a pocket or reaching into underneath a seat or into a console, right? They would absolutely have fear for their lives because I want to put this up. This is what happened just a couple weeks earlier. Let's go ahead and put up image number 3. This happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin 2 weeks ago. Suspect on loose after shooting Kenosha police officer, Wisconsin DOJ says. And what happened was the cops responded to a man who was breaking into a vehicle. And they didn't really understand what was going on at the time. He reached into the vehicle, grabbed a gun, and then opened fire and shot the officer. So just 2 weeks ago, this same police department in this same town experienced an officer being shot by someone who had reached into their car and grabbed a gun that they didn't know about. You're walking up the scene, you see someone has nothing in his hands, all of a sudden he reaches into the car, grabs a gun, and one of their officers is on the ground bleeding. So that context, to me, is very important. Because when you understand that's what that police department just went through 2 weeks ago, you start understanding a little bit more why they would have responded like that to this man walking around the car, opening the driver's side, and then reaching into it.
I mean, I try to look at it from my perspective. Would I have fired if knowing the struggle on one side led to the other side and he's getting in his car and we have no idea what's happening in his car? And that second video was also someone screaming, telling their mom to get away from him. Like, get away. And things are not going to go well.
There were kids walking around. It was weird.
The other information that you were just talking about as well, Max, which is important, we should probably talk about, is what you're about to talk about, which is the other charges that this person had against them. So we're talking about a shooting, whether or not it was justified. We're also talking about, what kind of suspect are we talking about? Like what kind of person is he? What context do the police officers have currently as to why they're detaining this individual?
So let's go ahead and put up image number 2. I want to just say, right off the bat, I have tried to confirm that this is the same Jacob Blake that we saw in that video. The mugshot that you can see on the screen certainly looks like the man who was photographed and released with this other story. And the ages line up, and the area of Wisconsin lines up as well. This is a clip from a 2015 article where a man named Jacob Blake, 24, again, look at the image. It looks very similar to, let's go ahead, just so people can see, let's go ahead and put up image number 4. That is the man who was shot yesterday. Notice what he looks like on the right. Now let's go ahead and put on image number 2. This is the image from 2015. It looks like the same individual, but we are obviously going to preface this by saying we have not been able to confirm that Jacob Blake, while he is the same age and while he's the same area and while he looks the same, we cannot say with certainty that it's the same person. But that being said, there's a lot of news outlets reporting that it is. We just haven't been able to confirm it. And what this story says is it's from 2015, and it says Racine police say a canine had to help officers take a man into custody when the man refused to go quietly after he pulled a gun at a local bar. This Jacob Blake was charged with 1 felony count of resisting arrest, causing soft tissue injury to a police officer, 1 misdemeanor count of each carrying a concealed weapon, carrying a firearm while intoxicated, and endangering safety use of a dangerous weapon, and disorderly conduct. According to the criminal complaint, Blake and 2 women were at the Brass Monkey Tavern at that address Saturday when Blake got into an argument with another person and pulled a black handgun. Blake pointed the gun at another man, and the magazine fell to the floor.
That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny, by the way.
The bartender told Blake to leave, and he did, but then pointed the gun through the window at patrons inside the bar before walking south on Junction Avenue. So, again, we cannot, with 100% complete certainty say that this is the same Jacob Blake, but he looks the same, he's the same age, and it's the same area of Wisconsin, I feel confident enough to share that story, and other news outlets are reporting it.
Yeah, they're
But
reporting
that
it.
is apparently in his record.
It's in his record, and he refused to go quietly. So we have this
Yes.
pattern. You know, I talk about my brother, and we have this conversation, especially now, because it comes up all the time. I'm having conversations with people all the time on, hey, Joe, how do you feel about everything? How do you feel about what happened to your brother? How do you feel about, you know, because my brother was murdered by a police officer 3 years ago, August 6th. Murdered, right? Say what you want. You call it what you want. He was murdered. Different circumstances. But there wasn't a he was going into his car. There wasn't a he had resisted arrest. I mean, he was running from the police. That is the thing that he did wrong, and they wanted to teach him a lesson, so they knocked him off a motorcycle at 90 miles an hour, and my brother died as a result of that behavior. Now, they had his plate number. They could have waited till the next day. They could have done a lot of things, run out of gas. I mean, there's a lot of things they could have done that wouldn't have resulted in my brother dying.
Yeah.
Now, I cannot tell you that my brother did not play a part in his own death, because he did. He did play a part in his own death. What I can tell you is it's not justified. In this case, you have the same person. I'm going to say it's the same person with a caveat that maybe he has a twin, is the same name.
Yeah.
Right? But he resisting arrest, got away from the police, walked over to the car. You have a police officer that literally was shot just a couple weeks earlier.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I wouldn't be on edge as well. And the police officers know what kind of person they're dealing with. They have access to the NCIC records that show that this person already has habitually not listened, that has been violent in the past, has carried a gun, was convicted of, I assume, was convicted of something having to do with a felony. So we don't know what kind of person, they know what kind of person that there is in front of him. Right. And if you knew that somebody was a violent offender before, went to jail, I'm sure that he went to jail for something before. If you knew those things and you were a police officer and he's going and getting into his car, yeah,
So
I'm shooting. I'm telling you right now, if I know this is a violent offender and we get in a scuffle on one side and he gets into the car on the other side, even as a citizen, I think that there'd be a high degree of probability that I would draw my gun. I would.
So I want to correct something I said before. Kenosha police the police involved were not wearing body cameras. So that's going to make this a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like they turned them off. It just sounds like they were not issued body cameras and were not wearing them. So that's going to make this a lot more complicated. On YouTube, we have Agam basically trying to fact check us, acting like a lawyer, saying that story we just shared from 2015 was another day, another person, another situation.
It's not.
Yes, except for the fact that when they were to run the plates of the vehicle that they were coming up to, they would have seen that person's name. They would have seen his criminal history. They would have had an understanding of what they were walking into. And Agam is saying inadmissible hearsay. Well,
no, it's not inadmissible.
This really
Prior
isn't
behavior
inadmissible
is not
hearsay.
inadmissible. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no
speaking
idea what you're talking
to
about.
The officer's frame of mind, which obviously they have not released statements. Very good idea, because they're probably now being investigated. We're trying to speak to the officer's frame of mind, where if we were an officer, knowing what they would know, pulling up to a call, right, at an address where they would already be given all this information, we're trying to walk through it and see if you can even justify it at all.
Right.
So it's not inadmissible, because if the officers knew that information, then that would speak to their decision-making processes.
I mean,
yeah, so
I don't know how that information would not be relevant. And see, the thing that bothers me is somebody over here saying, oh, you know, his prior past has nothing to do with it. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Has everything to do with it. He pulled a gun on someone in a bar. He went to jail. I don't know how long he went to jail, but I do know he went to jail.
We don't know if he went to jail, because this was
take
a
the
different
over.
county. This was Racine County.
Right.
I probably mispronounced that, but Racine County. He was in Kenosha County when this happened, so there could have been a disconnect, because a lot of people are now pulling to this image, which is from Kenosha County Court. Let's go ahead and put up image number 1. Now, this is what I spent most of this morning trying to figure out, whether this was the same Jacob S. Blake. And I cannot confirm whether or not the Jacob S. Blake who was shot and killed by police is the identical Jacob S. Blake who also had an active warrant issued for his arrest for criminal trespassing related to domestic abuse, third-degree sexual assault, and disorderly conduct. I cannot verify it. What I can say is that this Jacob S. Blake, on this arrest warrant, this court document, lived on the same block of the same street in the same city as the other Jacob S. Blake who was shot yesterday. So I am basically explaining that in a way that protects us legally from making the claim that they are identical, giving you the ability to decide for yourself whether there are two Jacob S. Blakes living on the same block of the same street with this kind of criminal record. I say that is very,
this is a different case than the one we're talking about in 2015.
Yes.
This is an active warrant, a warrant that is active today for the arrest of a Jacob Blake, S. Blake.
And the reason that we're running with this is because the middle initial matches up. Like it's possible there could be two Jacob Blakes. That seems like a reasonable enough thing to say. Yeah. Two Jacob S. Blakes with the same kind of criminal history.
Put that back up there again. Yeah, put the warrant back up again. All right. So you notice the second one right there? See? Third-degree sexual assault?
Yes.
Domestic
felony.
Abuse? Yeah. That's felony. And we're not talking about a domestic case. We're talking about a sexual domestic case, which means he sexually assaulted another person.
Allegedly. But there's enough evidence to support not only an investigation, but a warrant being issued for his arrest. So, if this is in fact the same Jacob S. Blake living at the same block on the same street of Kenosha, Wisconsin, the officers approaching that house would have known this. They would have known that that individual, whether they confirmed his identity or not, they would have confirmed that there was an active warrant out because they would have scanned the plate and they would have known the address that they were coming to. So the reason that we are explaining this is because there's lots of things going through these officers' head. And obviously we will wait for a full determination until the police department releases their own story of what happened. It's going to be more difficult because there wasn't body camera footage. But if the police officers knew everything about this man that I was able to find in 20 minutes of Google searching, right? And we're not even talking about them calling into precinct and running a plate or checking the criminal record in real time. If I can find this, me, just a regular citizen, if I can find this, then it is entirely possible that they found it. And Jen just said that I did pronounce Racine correctly. Thank you, Jen.
Does she live
I was
there?
nervous about that. I don't know if she lives there, but she might be local.
All right, let's play it again. Let's play it again. Now, I want to play it differently now, okay? Now, I want everybody to close your eyes for a minute, right? Maybe don't close your eyes.
You can't watch it if you're closed.
You can't. If you're listening to it, close your eyes. I want to play this. I want to play those two clips again, right? But I want you to play it from the perspective of the police, right? So we're going to assume that this is the same man, based on getting arrested, right? Now, if it comes out that all of this is right, then they did millions of dollars in damage because they just wanted to act like a bunch of idiots, right? Not because it wasn't justified shooting. And then there's moral and ethics go out the window, and that doesn't matter. You can't shoot someone that's going to try and shoot you, right? That's the new thing, right? But this is a person that pulled a gun on someone in a bar, had to get chased by a canine, taken down by a canine, was charged with assaulting a police officer in that entire melee. Yeah. Right. Now, there's a domestic abuse charge that is related to a sex offense, right?
And they're responding to a domestic disturbance.
And I don't know of any of you out there that, if you were in that position, but I want you to watch the video again. If you knew these things, one, you have an habitual violent offender, right? Violent offender. Now, maybe this is just allegedly that he did something wrong and sexually assaulted another person. Maybe allegedly that's true. But there's a warrant out for his arrest for violence against another person. sexual violence against another person, right? Hashtag save the children. And then on this side, sorry, I had to say it because Facebook doesn't want you to say it.
And they're responding to a domestic disturbance.
They're responding to a domestic disturbance. And they can see all of this. They can see that this gentleman, right, had a history. And you can say whatever you want. Well, they didn't have a right to shoot him. What if he went into his car and was grabbing a gun? They couldn't see his hands. He had already had a violent confrontation with the police officers and had resisted arrest, right? They were arresting him. That's what it looked like in the thing. They were arresting him. So how, based on all that information, play clip 1 again. Play clip 1.
So it's terrible.
Wow.
You see that.
Yeah. Now play clip 2.
Sad.
Play clip 2. Sorry, man.
Get my son. Get my son. Get my son. Get my son. Come here, TJ. TJ. You a bogus bitch. This bitch is bogus. My queen is bogus. Focus on your baby. Mom, get back. Mom. You have to get back.
It's hard, and people Michael on YouTube is saying I'm a conservative, but you guys sound ridiculous. I'm not concluding whether this is justified one way or another. I am just trying to approach this with the mindset of a responding officer who would have access to this individual's criminal record.
I'm a conservative, and you sound ridiculous. What part of it sounds ridiculous? We're having a discussion about whether or not it was a justified shooting. I just put all that information in front of you, and we're ridiculous. Get off our page. Just get off. Beat it. If we can't have a discussion about this, if we can't actually talk about what is going on, and we got a bunch of snowflakes that are being developed on the left and the right now, we can't talk about it. No, we can't talk about whether or not the police officer had every right to shoot this guy. Look, I don't think anyone should get shot. I don't want anybody to get shot. Right? He's still alive. He'll have his day in court. Right? He'll survive this. From what it looks like, he'll survive it. Right? And you want to tell me we sound ridiculous? Get off our page. Go do your own podcast. Get out of here.
So that's where
this is the reason why you don't want me on video, because I'll just tell guys to just beat it. Go. You want to go talk your smack somewhere else.
When we cover stories like this, the reason we do it is not to. And remember, this guy is not dead. He survived the shooting.
We do this because of perspective.
He survived the shooting. He went through surgery, and he's in intensive care right now. He is not deceased. This was not murder. So lots of people saying it's cold-blooded murder. I mean, just factually, it isn't. Let's get through this, because we see a couple people commenting on YouTube and Facebook about the 7 shots. Anyone who has never had any firearms training understands that, believes that 7 shots is excessive, and it may be excessive. But anyone who has ever gone through firearms training knows that you are not trained to fire 1 shot and stop. You are trained to, if necessary, in defense of life or in defense of other people's lives, you are to fire until the threat goes away. You fire to stop the threat. 7 shots, I understand it could be seen as excessive. In that moment, though, you are trained to continue firing until the person is no longer
100%.
Doing the thing that is threatening you. In this case, from our vantage point, it appears that the man is reaching into his car. Now, whether or not there's a gun there, whether or not there's some other weapon there, no one knows at this point. The man was ordered to stop 7 times.
Yep.
He was either being detained or arrested.
Yeah.
He had allegedly already been tased. And he walked around the car and reached into his car. As we showed it before, let's go ahead and put up that image again, image number 3. 2 weeks ago in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a police officer was shot by someone who reached into a car and grabbed a gun that was not visible as the officer was approaching the car. So this is why context is important. It's not to justify the shooting. We're just trying to paint the picture of what the police officers would have known, what they would have felt, and how they would have gone into this situation. It's not as simple as he was shot for doing nothing.
Right.
Now, A court may ultimately determine that what they did was excessive, and if that's the case, then that's the case.
Yeah, but how about the governor coming out and condemning the police for what they did before he even had the details? I mean, it took us 20 minutes. How much information did he think he looked into? He just fueled the fire. Let's fuel it, right? And then they burn down a city. They take away people's livelihood, right? And it's justified how? Justified how?
Yeah.
How do you destroy people in your community because someone gets shot? How about we watch the system and see if we can actually hold people accountable? No, we don't want to do that. We don't hold people accountable. We want to loot and pillage and throw bricks and act like asses. That's what we want to do. It's crazy.
So
this is nuts.
Let me read the statement from Governor Tony Evers because, again, we were able to find all of this within 20 minutes. He's the governor of the state, and he apparently hasn't done any of the research. So this is from Tony Evers, released this statement last night. Quote, Jacob Blake was shot in the back multiple times in broad daylight in Kenosha. Kathy and I join his family, friends, and neighbors in hoping earnestly that he will not succumb to his injuries. While we do not have all the details yet, what we know for certain is he is not the first black man or person to have been shot or injured or mercilessly killed at the hands of individuals in law enforcement in our state or in our country. He then goes on to list a bunch of different people, including George Floyd, who we've talked about that, listing other people who've been killed by police. It just seems so you don't say that. If you don't have all the information, you don't issue a statement insinuating that he was mercilessly killed by police officers, right? You just don't do it. You don't do it. But he's a Democrat governor in a state that for the longest time has been run by Republicans. This is what you get from Democrat leadership. That didn't calm anyone down. This comment, and when he basically adds that caveat, while we do not have all the details yet, allow me to just opine on what happened. Incredibly dangerous. Incredibly dangerous, and we're seeing what happened.
Yeah.
He was issued 7 orders to stop. He didn't stop. Now, we can discuss whether police officers had a legal right to detain him or a legal right to arrest him. That will have to come out. But if we see there's a struggle on the ground, police officers tell him to stop moving. He then walks around the car, opens the car door, and reaches into the car. All we are doing is trying to paint a picture and show you that it is not unreasonable for that officer in that situation, knowing everything that he would have known going into this stop, in this house call, it is not unreasonable for him to have feared for his life.
No, it's not unreasonable.
It just isn't. And that's what makes this so heartbreaking, because he had 7 opportunities to not get killed. If he had just continued walking down the street instead of going into his car, he wouldn't have gotten shot.
Well, let's talk about the kids. The kids were in the car. Why would you put yourself? I would never put my kids in that position. You can't win. You're not going to win if you fight the police. Your kids are in the car. Why would you selfishly put your kids in that situation as a father? I would never put my kids in that situation.
Well, did you see
I would live to see another day, right? Oh, kids walking around the outside. I mean, at least the person that shot the second video from the other perspective was saying, "Hey guys, get out of there."
Yeah.
And by the way, they're not saying get out of there because it's unpredictable. The guy looks unpredictable. He looks like he doesn't care. And he walks to the car door with determination. You have no idea what that guy's going to do. Look, if you put it all together in a picture and then you have people saying, hey, you can't justify shooting 7 times. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that,
saying. Yeah. Go ahead.
All I know is that I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I'm glad that it does not appear that they shot to kill him. Either that or they're just really bad shots, right? Which is good. It's a blessing. Let's just call it a blessing. Hopefully he survives. Hopefully that the injuries he sustains don't leave him in bad shape in the future, right? But with that said, there's a causation. There's a consequence to people's behavior, and we don't ever talk about the consequence. There's a consequence to my brother dying. There's a consequence to him getting shot. There's a consequence to the fact that he was arrested for pointing a gun at somebody in a bar. There's a consequence.
Yeah.
And you have to.
So
I don't know
Michael's writing on YouTube. Michael's writing on YouTube that we're a bit butthurt because we called him out. No, we call out people on our streams all the time. And he says fear for life doesn't equal justified shooting. Actually,
yes,
in this case, it does.
If
the police have issued a lawful order for him to stop, either so he could be detained or he could be arrested. And there is a technical, legal, and constitutional difference there. If they have issued a lawful order and he refuses to obey the order, which if he is the same person as that 2015 incident, that Jacob S. Blake also ignored a police order, and they had to bring out the canine unit to bring him down because he was ignoring police and walking back to his car. Same kind of situation. Fear for your life is what justifies a self-defense shooting. If an officer is in fear for their life, they are allowed to use deadly force until such point as the threat no longer exists. That tends to be universal across all states. The more blue a state is, the more restrictions there are in that use of deadly force. But police officers generally are able to do that. When a man is reaching into his car, it is not beyond the realm of possibility to say that the officer seeing that would be concerned, worried about him pulling a gun. As we explained, because that same kind of incident happened 2 weeks prior in the same city to another officer. He was shot after someone reached into a car and grabbed a gun.
Right. Man, say what you want. Get upset because, and by the way, I'm not butthurt. I don't really care what you think. I don't care what you think. Matter of fact, I didn't even voice my opinion yet, right? I don't like the fact that you want to come out here and say that we don't know what we're talking about, but we did the research, and all you did was read CNN. So don't talk to me about being butthurt. I'm not butthurt. Your opinion doesn't mean anything to me. I have my own opinion. See, I do this thing called think for myself. And I'm pissed off at the fact the governor didn't do enough research to at least give people context for what happened. I'm pissed off that we only got one perspective when there's two videos, two perspectives. But we only released one in the media. I'm pissed off about that. I'm even more pissed off about the fact that people lost their homes and automobiles and businesses because somewhere along the line, they thought you could just burn down everyone else. I know that you're my neighbor. I know that you're affected by a lack of accountability, but who cares? Yeah, we're going to burn down your business. Right? We're going to put you out of business because that's what should happen when someone has a lack of accountability or we feel like should be held accountable. Now let's just burn them at the stake.
And you can see from the video that when the officer shot, he was also pulling on Jacob Blake's shirt to try and pull him out of the vehicle. Yeah, and
he was reaching down. He was reaching down. He wasn't. He wasn't even climbing in. He was reaching down. If you reach down on, I'm just telling you. And again, I'm not saying it's justified or not. I don't think 7 shots is justified. But did it take 7 shots? I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. But you don't burn down your community without all the facts coming out. You just don't do it. Why would you?
And that's the second part of this. We're going to get into the actual footage from last night's riots because there's 2 parts to this podcast. One, explaining how the media is presenting a picture that is deliberately devoid of important context.
They don't care about it. It bleeds, it leads.
The other side of the car, that footage, and the individual's alleged criminal history, because we cannot 100% confirm that's the same person, but same person, same name, same middle name, same residence on the same block of the same street. Lead to your own conclusions.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the reaction to it and how this city burned. And we're going to do it on the other side of the break because we need to play a quick video from our sponsor. Don't go anywhere.
Last night, I had a dream. Shook me to the core. Opened my eyes, and nothing was like before. Graduation, prom, hanging with my besties, those safe faces, safe places, rooms where you would test me. 2 square meals a day, gone.
So we're back from that break. That ad was brought to you by our sponsor for today's podcast, ACE Scholarships. ACE Scholarships is a pro-school choice organization that provides children of low-income families with scholarships so they can get out of failing public schools and go to private and charter schools in grades K through 12. ACE Scholarships, it was founded in 2000 with a vision to give every child access to a quality education, and it's since awarded over 42,000 scholarships to children across 8 states. If you want to learn more about ACE Scholarships and you want to help them in their school choice mission, because that's what this is about, school choice, check out the link in our description. They have their annual fundraiser going on this, I believe it's Wednesday on the 26th. So make sure you check out that link. It's going to be online, virtual because of COVID. So if you want to help this organization with their school choice mission, check out the link in the description. Okay, so we just talked about all of this, about the information that officers could have or would have had walking into the situation, explaining what they would have seen, why they would have felt that using deadly force was justified, which again is not proven or disproving, just presenting the case that it could have been justified. What is absolutely the case is the reaction to this was not justified in any way, shape, or form. Kenosha, Wisconsin burned last night.
Yeah.
By people who have been angry for weeks, angry for months, who were just looking for an opportunity, an excuse to do it.
Yeah. 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 And people were like, well, you don't know whether it was justified or not. No. Nope, that's not what this is about. Right? And again, I haven't even told you what my thought is, right? I haven't told you what my thought is. I haven't told you, we don't know what the guy's mindset is. We know that there was a disturbance there. I haven't told you what my opinion is. What I did say is that there are consequences to everyone's behavior. If you can't live to see another day, if you can't actually listen to the police, I mean, you could get shot. You could. You could get shot by someone that, frankly, is in fear for their life at a different level, that doesn't have the restraint that is necessary to get you all the way through that process because they are in fear for their life. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. You could have avoided all of that by stopping, getting arrested, getting your day in court. And I don't even like the court system. I mean, if we're really being honest, I don't like the district attorneys. I don't like the judges. I think these judges, a lot of them act with impunity. I think they ruin people's lives every day. Right? So if you want to talk about reform doesn't just happen with police officers. It happens in the court system. And the court system is flawed because it's too expensive to get justice. And they know it. Right? So if you want truth, you want to know what I think that the court system is bogus. On every level, it shouldn't be this expensive in order to get justice. And by the way, I should be able to walk into a court at any point by myself, say, here are the facts, present the facts, other side do the same thing. I shouldn't have to, knock on wood 3 times, knock on my head, rub on my belly, right? Do all these weird things in order to get justice. That shouldn't happen. There shouldn't be these rules that basically make it draconianly hard to get justice. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
Right?
So Daniel Clinard says,
he's that guy.
Could have reached for a gun with 8 police officers with their guns drawn. Get the F out of here. Only you can prevent terrible arguments. We're not making an argument one way or another. We're only
he's
presenting,
a clown.
We're presenting the context that is noticeably missing from the mainstream media's reporting, which is that the man seems to have had a criminal record, seems to have had an active warrant for his arrest for sexual assault, domestic violence, and they were responding to a domestic dispute, apparently at the same address. Yeah. And there was a police officer who was shot and killed by someone who they were trying to talk to, and he reached into a car and grabbed a gun and shot an officer just 2 weeks prior. That's all we're doing. We're delivering the context. If you're so terrified of the full context, that says far more about you than it does about us. Because yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, Joe, on our live stream, we did a live stream for Donald Trump's announcement that convalescent plasma had been approved as a treatment for COVID-19. We put out a very simple poll. What do you think about this new COVID treatment? Do you support it? Yes, I support it. More people will survive. And then we always have one question on there to try and get a feel for how many trolls are on it, because it's such a ridiculous answer. No one but a troll, no one but a leftist would answer it. The no answer was no, I don't like it because Donald Trump will be able to use it politically. So this was something they were putting out that has allegedly a 35% increase in survivability when given to COVID patients in hospital settings early on. 35% more patients survive. And there were actually 50 some odd people on our stream yesterday who didn't want that advancement because they didn't want Trump to be able to use it politically. I mean, this is the kind of people we're talking about. They don't want the truth. They just want their own little narrative.
Look, when I get pulled over by a police officer, right? When I get pulled over, here's what I do.
Yeah.
I roll my window down and I do this. Yeah. Right?
Officer, I'm gonna reach for my registration. I'm not reaching for a gun. Please do not shoot me, officer.
Now, I'm a concealed carry holder. I carry a gun on me, right? I do this, right? When they walk up to the car, I look over at them. I do not move my arms. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Because I have no idea if that guy has a bad day. I don't know if he's a good cop or a bad cop. I don't know how he's going to interact with me. Now, I drive a nice car. I drive a really nice car. And I still do this. Do you think my blood pressure goes up?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
My blood pressure does go up. Does it mean that I don't back police officers? No. I just don't know, like any other profession, whether or not I'm going to get a good one or a bad one.
Yeah.
I still think I have a 99% chance of getting a good one.
Or whether you could get a good one who would see and interpret your actions a different way than you're seeing it, right? And you can have a good cop who makes a mistake because he sees something and
Officer, can I put
interprets
my
it
hands down?
Yeah.
Put my hands down.
Which is why you always ask, hey, I'm going to reach for my thing, right? You explain it. The George Floyd video, those officers technically would have been justified in using force against Floyd the minute that they said put your hands on the wheel and he started rummaging through his center console, because he could have grabbed a gun and he could have swung and shot them. Which is why when they give you orders, you listen to the orders. It's not them trying to, I mean, in some cases it is, but most of the time it's not them trying to exert their power over you. It's to give you clear instructions for, if you follow these instructions, you're going to go home at night. Just follow the instructions. Don't reach for anything. Don't make any sudden movements. Don't lunge at the officer. Don't resist arrest. Don't walk away from an officer, right? Just follow the instructions. When you follow the instructions, 99 times out of 100, probably even more, you end up walking home, getting home at the end of the night. You probably go to jail first, but you will survive.
But wait, hold on. There's more, right? The governor is a Democrat, and they're all coming together. Like, let's cause as much chaos as possible. Let's burn down our city. The hardworking Americans out there that have poured their life into their business, need that car to get to work. No, forget it. We don't care about those people. Let's use them as a political jockeying tool so we can create chaos. Right?
So
and let's not give them the facts. Let's not give the people the facts.
We're going to play those videos of the riots.
Yeah.
And I want you all to ask yourself whether that shooting, even if you think it might have been excessive, I'm hoping that given the context, people can at least understand that the officers would have been on edge. Ask yourself whether that shooting, explained with the context we just gave you, justifies what we're about to show you that happened in Kenosha last night. This is a video of an officer being struck in the head by a brick and hitting the ground like a sack of potatoes. Let's play cut 3. So that officer got hit in the head with a brick last night at the riots in Kenosha. So even if you're on the fence,
Daniel, come on, Daniel, come out and talk about it. Come on, tell me how it's justified.
Even if you're on the fence, even if you're saying that the officers used excessive force, there's no possible way hitting an officer in the head with a brick is justified. There's just no way. There just isn't. Here, let's go ahead and play this. This is cut 5. This is a video of a church with a Black Lives Matter sign out front being burned. Let's play cut 5.
Before you do, stop.
It's only 15 seconds. That is a church, a Universalist church, being burned down with a Black Lives Matter sign in front of it. Go ahead, Joe. What do you have to say?
Share it. I want everybody to share. If you're on here, share it. Share at least the details. Have them go back to the beginning and watch the details, so the people aren't giving a quarter of a story and saying, "Oh yeah, it's justified." Look, we don't have enough details. We don't actually have enough information to tell you whether it's justified or not. But if I were looking at it from the outside and I was just doing 20 minutes of research, which is what we did in order to get to this point, I would say that the information, the context of the information, leads me to believe that those police officers wanted to go home to their family. And this guy has a history of violence, and he's got an arrest warrant out for violence, sexual violence against what I think is a woman.
We don't know who
we don't know.
We don't know who it was against. But if it was a child, there probably would have been other charges.
So hit share. Hit the share button.
Yeah.
And let's have a discussion about what it is. And by the way, if you want to call up, Daniel, call up. Don't cuss on our show. I'll kick you out, and we'll ban you. But if you want to call up and have a conversation, 888-441-1121. I'm willing to listen to you. I'm not saying that I actually have the right answer. I'm telling you that based on what I'm seeing, 7 times, maybe excessive. I don't know. I'm not the police officer. I'm not a police officer. I can tell you that if you come into my house, right, gun or no gun, my magazine holds 15, and you're probably going to get all 15, right?
So let me read a couple of comments first. Slade says in the comment section on YouTube, he had a warrant for his arrest, shrugged off a taser, went to his car and reached for something while resisting the officer pulling him away. That's a pretty accurate description of what happened in there. Be Logical just wrote, well, I just got red-pilled. That shooting was justified. People are saying that wasn't a church. That looked like it was a church sign. Let's play cut 5 one more time.
Universalist. That's church.
So that might be a car lot next to a church, but that sign that's on fire is absolutely for a church.
Yeah.
It's a Universalist church.
Hey, that's just a symbol of burning down the Black Lives Matter movement because they're doing a good job of burning it down themselves. This Marxist and socialist ideology is destroying that idea that Black Lives Matter. And we've said this before. My family is interracial. My whole family, like all the way around, looks like the United Nations, kind of like our office. But the Black Lives Matter movement itself has been hijacked by extremists, by loony leftists.
Yeah.
Right? And frankly, I can't support it. But the idea of the Black Lives Matter and that racism is not a systemic issue, but it does exist. Right? I can get behind that. But you can't defy authority at every front and expect there not to be consequences. Right? I'm sorry,
people are
you just
saying
can't.
that sign was next to a car dealership, which it was. That building was also in danger of getting lit up too. And there were live streamers who were videoing this who actually put their cameras down and went over there to stop the church from going up in flames.
Yeah.
So that video showed the sign being burned. It showed the car dealership being burned, and the church would have gone up too if it wasn't for people stopping it. Let's play this. This is cut 4. This is a small business going up in flames.
Yeah. This totally looks justified to me.
Looks like some kind of restaurant.
Yeah.
Hard to tell.
So there's people that work for that company that tomorrow are going to wake up unemployed. And by the way, if you don't know this, if you don't know, the unemployment rate is over 10%.
Yeah.
If you don't know it, but let's make it more. Let's make it more.
But not if they burn down all the businesses. I mean, that's one way to get that talking point from the Democrat committee, the Democrat National Committee. That's one way to make those statements true. What's going? Oh, where's Joe going? Oh, okay, he has to step away for a second. He'll be right back. He has to step away for a second. Oh, he's back now. Okay. Though that wasn't just people losing their jobs. That was people are saying in the comment section it was a pizza place. That wasn't just people losing their jobs. That was someone's life savings going up in flames. That was someone's dream of small business ownership going up in flames. People saying business insurance. Yeah, but business insurance.
Business insurance. Oh my gosh.
And when you've been forced to close down because of COVID and you don't have any money coming in the door and you've been spending money out to try and keep people employed even though you don't have the revenues to justify it, when you get burned to the ground, not everyone is in a position to be able to pay the deductible, to be able to pay the out-of-pocket costs associated with rebuilding.
It doesn't matter. There are also clauses inside the insurance that don't allow for insurance if they deem it as terroristic activity or riots. Yeah. I mean, these people are a bunch of morons. They've never owned a business. They've never risked anything.
Well, not a moron. The person who said that isn't a moron.
I didn't say they were a moron. These people on the street that think they can burn down a building and say, "Oh, this is our symbol," and you can just go put it on your insurance. That's who I'm talking about.
So let's go ahead. Here's another clip of completely justified rioting and looting. This is a clip of people going into a store, stealing a television, and then stealing a cash register and breaking it open so they can get the petty cash. Let's go to cut 6.
It's unbelievable.
And this one's a little long, but I want to show you just what we're dealing with. Because whether you believe this is justified, the shooting was justified or not, this is what happened last night. The places that weren't burned to the ground were looted. And here's a guy running out with a television. Here's the guys bringing out other stuff. Looting and stealing. Yeah, that makes sense. Police involved shooting, let's just steal everything. So here, the cash register is on the ground, and they are kicking it, beating it, trying to open the cash register to be able to get the cash inside. What does that have to do with racial justice? What's that have to do with social justice?
It doesn't. It has nothing to do with it.
There's nothing to do with it.
Nope.
Like, what does that? Why would they torch a car dealership? What does that have to do with anything? Burn down a pizza place.
Couldn't find the keys, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was a video of them trying to get into them. This one is probably the stupidest one that we have. This is the SWAT team coming in to disperse the riot, and people decided to go up to the SWAT vehicle with rifles to stop the sheriff's office, from responding. Let's go ahead and play cut 9. They say you're instigating. The sheriffs are instigating. There's one rifle right there. You can see it. Here it comes. This guy was almost just Darwin awarded. Look at that. There's another guy with a gun. Don't point it. He's literally in a down ready position with his rifle. When people say that the police departments do not need these kinds of vehicles, they were responding to a riot to save people's livelihoods, their businesses, and they were basically confronted by men with rifles. But they're not allowed to. Police aren't allowed to have armored vehicles. They don't need them. Let's keep watching, because these idiots are about to get gassed, and it's kind of fun to watch.
They all have gas masks on. Get ready.
Gas masks on. Here we go. Oh, boom! This pop up. They pop open the top hatch like, whoop. Here's some gas. We can stop it there. So everyone who says the police need to be defunded, everyone who says there's no reason for a police department, a SWAT team, to have an MRAP, which is a mine-resistant armored personnel vehicle, which is what that looked to be. Everyone who says that they don't need that. We just showed footage of them responding to a riot, responding to people having their businesses burned down, their homes burned down, businesses looted, right? Car dealerships destroyed, everything set on fire. They respond in that vehicle, and what happens? They're blocked by at least 2 people with long guns. Didn't look like they pointed it, but they were definitely in a down-ready position, ready to use it if necessary. I mean, how can anyone say police need to be defunded? How can anyone say that the MRAPs are not necessary when this is what Kenosha, Wisconsin's Sheriff Department needs to keep the peace?
Yeah. No, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. I mean, look what's happening in Portland. Look what's happening in Portland.
What's happening in Denver?
And look at, but last night they cracked on their heads last night.
Well, I don't have video of that, but I do have video of them attacking a Quiznos, which apparently they ruined this Quiznos. Let's go ahead and what number that's cut 7. It's a short video. What's the point of that? What's the point of that?
Nothing.
Does anyone understand how expensive those windows are? They're very expensive to replace.
So let's say that those windows are $1,500 a piece, right? Your deductible for a business is $10,000.
They might be, but it's expensive, yeah.
Your deductible is $10,000. You're working on small margins as a restaurant, 2%, 3%, maybe 4% if you're lucky. And
not allowed in-person
now
dining.
All your profits for the next 2 months gone, out the door.
Yeah.
That's what you did to a person.
Why?
You literally just
No
took away their just because I want to destroy my community. I want to destroy their ability to make a living because I don't have a job because I live in my parents' basement. So why not destroy everything they stand for?
Yeah. Everyone who's watching this for the first time right now, Please make sure you like and follow our page if you're watching on Facebook. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube page if you're watching this on YouTube, because we have a bunch of people watching on YouTube right now. Make sure that you hit that like button, hit the bell for notifications, and subscribe to our channel. We go live with this podcast every day, and we have other videos that we put out too. So if the first time finding us, make sure that you hit the like button and such. I'm going to go ahead and show the results, the poll results in the video. This is actually a little bit closer. No, it's not anywhere near close. But the question we asked the whole episode, was this a justified police shooting? We explained what the police would have had in their heads as they went into this, and then explained it. So 88% of you say that yes, it was a justified police shooting. 12% of you say no, which is it's a fair position. If you don't believe it was justified, it's fair to think that. The whole purpose of this episode was to present people with an alternate explanation for what happened.
Well, it wasn't even explanation. It was just information, right? We're just giving them information, and then we gave our opinion.
Far more than the governor gave, which is stunning.
Well, the governor didn't do anything. He's just a lazy prick, right? And he's a Democrat. Yeah. So just like most Democrats, they just don't think for themselves. They want to think along this weak line of, hey, let's not follow the details, right? And the classical Democrats, I don't have a problem with them because you're actually more conservative than you know. And by the way, take social issues and push them aside. I don't want to talk about social issues because we won't solve that on political ideology. We just won't. There's plenty of people that are conservative that have different social views, including myself, right? So, but I do want to say that, the left has a serious problem. It has a problem with pedophilia. I mean, rapists and closet racists. And the guy, by the way, that was this Blake guy, I mean, he has an active warrant for sex assault. Not just assault, sex assault. And he has a history. If it's the same person, which I believe in pink unicorns, just not today. If it's the same person, then, he also assaulted a police officer, pointed a gun at someone, didn't understand how to keep a magazine in it, which is maybe he needs to go take a class. Well, that's
interesting. So have you ever fired a high point before?
Oh, yeah.
So a high points have magazine safeties.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a full magazine, or if you don't load the magazine correctly, it can actually fall out of a high point very easily.
Easily.
If you don't go through all of the proper steps, which those magazine safeties and those mechanisms have saved countless lives because idiot thugs, gangsters don't understand how to actually use it, and the magazine falls out. It's actually very common. So when I read that, I was like, aha, that was probably a high point, which, if anyone doesn't know, it is probably the cheapest semi-automatic gun that you can buy new. But they actually, they're not a sponsor, but they stand by their product. So if you were to throw it in a lake or a river and pull it out 10 years from now, it's all rusted, they would give you a new one. So as crazy as that is, they actually do stand by their cheap guns. I wanted to end on this because we talked about George Floyd last week, and we kind of mentioned it a bit today because there are some parallels here. Have you heard about what the defense attorney, Joe, is doing defending the cops? Have you read into at all the argument that he's putting forward in court?
That he overdosed on fentanyl.
Yes.
Which is
not
true.
Just that. Not just that he overdosed, but that at the time that the police interaction began, he put fentanyl in his mouth to swallow it to try and get rid of the evidence. That's the allegation. And so we have a video that the defense is actually putting forward and that people have been putting on social media. I don't know if it's true. I haven't done the due diligence of zooming in on everything, but that's the argument, that he had it in his mouth and they're putting this footage forward. So the fact that they're making this argument in court from the actual defense attorneys leads me to believe that at least this is what they're arguing. Now, it could have been a chiclet. It could have been chewing gum. Could have been an Altoid. Could have been any host of things in his mouth. But it's just amazing that we've seen this footage so many times. No one's actually zoomed in on it. So let's go ahead and play this clip. Let's go to cut, which is this cut 8.
So both hands. Put your hands up right
and watch for his mouth.
Let me see your other hand. Please, so both hands. Put your hands up right now. Let me see your other hand. What we do? Put your hand up there. Put your hand up. All right, the attorney for Officer Thomas Lane believes this is the most important piece of this video because I want you to watch George Floyd's mouth. They are alleging that he's got 2 milligrams of fentanyl in his mouth when he was first approached by Officer Lane.
And
take a look
right
as we
there.
zoom in and freeze the video.
How crazy is that?
And you tell me what you see on George Floyd's tongue. Could that be 2 milligrams of fentanyl? That's what they alleged in their court papers, and they say it was that fentanyl that killed George Floyd.
So interesting. It could have been a chiclet, could have been an Altoid, could have been any host of things, right? But considering the fact that he had a lethal amount of fentanyl in his system, fentanyl's not a drug you mess around with, right? Fentanyl, and then even worse, carfentanil. You get even a tiny bit of that on your skin, it can kill you from an overdose.
Right.
And if he had a baggie of that in his mouth, it absolutely could have leached out. It absolutely could have led to his death, because he had an amount of fentanyl in his system that was more than the average overdose, the average fatal overdose. So I wanted to put that in there. Haven't confirmed it. They did file in court that he may have put it in his mouth, and that's how he may have had died. I have not confirmed whether that video was altered.
the contents of his stomach? Didn't they go through that process? I mean,
I don't know. Remember that the first autopsy actually said that he died from a combination of police actions, heart disease, and fentanyl overdose. So they didn't say it was fentanyl, but they said it was intoxicants, right? That was the first autopsy. That didn't go over well with the Black Lives Matter community. So they had a second autopsy that, not surprisingly, kind of downplayed. Yeah. Bull. I like this name. Bullwinkle Sprinkles is saying on YouTube that there's another video where he is seen dropping something on the ground as he's walking away from the car. I didn't have time to verify whether that was true or not, so I didn't want to play it. But because that video was actually referenced in a court filing, I feel a little bit more comfortable to play that, because obviously if that ends up being fabricated, that lawyer is going to be disbarred, right? There's serious consequences for that. But yeah, there's other videos going around of that appear to show him dropping something on the ground, another potentially little baggie, as he was walking away from the car. But can't confirm that one way or another. Any final words, Joe, as we wrap up this podcast?
You know, at some point we just have to have compassion for each other, right? And if Black lives do matter, then they have to matter all the time, right? And frankly, we should reserve judgment. Even if you want to have a rally, don't burn down innocent people's possessions, buildings, businesses, right? Have a little bit of compassion, work within the ethical standard that you say that you want to represent, but also understand that there are consequences to your behavior. There are. So be strong. We're less than 90 days from the election, so hoping that we have a good
I think
result.
We're at 71.
71, almost 60 days.
Closer. Yeah. So we had a bunch of comments, a bunch of likes, a bunch of shares today. If you like this content, you want more people to see it, make sure you hit that share button. You got to do 3 things to help us reach more people. Hit the share button, hit the like button, leave a comment. So if you do those 3 things, our video gets put in front of more people. And if you're on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to us, hit the bell for notifications, and leave some comments.
So also, Michaela is going back and forth in the comments, and I just want to point out that nobody's saying that it's fully justified. We don't know yet, but we're willing to operate with restraint and hold people accountable, because that's what accountability is supposed to be. So I do appreciate your comments, Michaela.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's justified, but if I was in that same position, I absolutely would have opened fire. I would have. Maybe not 7 times, but I would have fired. If I knew everything I know about him and saw him reaching into a car, I would have opened fire, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. People asking, are we going live tonight with the RNC? Yes. It's not going to be a fact check. I don't know, Joe, if you're going to be there. You might be busy. You're a very, very busy man. But if you're available, you can join us. It's not going to be a fact check, but we are going to have a drinking game. I'm torn whether we're just going to...
I can't do any more drinking games. Last time, my liver just suffered when we did a drinking game last time, and I don't think it's a good idea, because, frankly, that was too many lives. 400 sips of even Truly was tough. It was tough on my liver.
Well, anyone who didn't know, we hit over 1,700 lies for the Democrat National Convention over the 4 nights. And at the end, I had to bring out my Jaeger. That's how bad Joe Biden's lies got. We're going to come up with a drinking game in the next hour or so for tonight. I don't think it's going to be making fun. It might be playfully making fun of the GOP, but it's probably going to be take a sip every time they mention one of the things, and I'll probably just take their list of people that are going to talk and find the most likely things that they're going to say. But we will come out with something. We are going to live stream it tonight, so make sure you check out. I think we're going to be going live at 8 p.m. Eastern, because I think the RNC is starting at 8:30. So we'll go live a little early, so look out for that. Look out for that. That'll be tonight. So that's going to be it for this edition of the podcast. If you like this content, again, links in the description for how you can like and follow our page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, there's links in the description if you want to join our email newsletter, which if we end up getting taken down by Facebook or YouTube or any of these social channels, that's going to be the best way that we're going to be able to keep people in the know. We're also on Parler at Conservative Daily. Follow us there. We'll be happy to follow you back. If you like the podcast and you want to be able to listen to it as you go about your day, but you don't want to watch, you can subscribe to the audio version either on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or Podbean. We have a couple more there in the works, but those are the big ones. So make sure you like and subscribe to our podcast there. It helps us boost our numbers. I think I went through everything. Again, my name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Otto.
And remember that the fight to take back our country isn't over, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together.